Hello everybody and welcome to okramble, the only show on the internet where you can watch a Zoomer ramble for far too long about something that really doesn't matter. Today we are talking about my year of gaming 2025, probably releasing in March. Oh boy, am I late to this. Yes, this is going to be a video about my year of gaming 2025. This is not a best list games of 2025. Most of these games are not having been released in 2025. This is what I, as okzoomer, played in 2025, and my thoughts, my recommendations, what I liked, what I didn't like, my opinion on my year of gaming in 2025. Again, not a list of games that came out in 2025, just what I personally experienced in 2025 and what I thought about them. And starting off, we're gonna go with Persona 3 Reload. I really wanted to like this game. I really tried. I put a lot of hours into it. I just couldn't. I got into Persona because of Persona 5 Royal, and I loved it. It was fantastic, and there was really nothing else to it. So in 2024, I got the itch to play some Persona again, and I played through 4, and I was like, okay, it's good. It didn't really scratch that itch though. So I was like, all right, well, let me try 3 then. And so I started it, my first game of 2025, and I liked Persona 3 even less than I liked 4. The problem I have here is that Persona 3, it's just so much weaker than Persona 5. It really, like, everything that Persona 3 tries to do here, and I will give it, it's a very ambitious game. It is, I don't know if it's the first of its type, but it is doing a very revolutionary in what it's doing here. And so it is doing a lot of stuff, but it is also the first to do a lot of this stuff. It's the first one in the series to try a lot of these elements, this kind of like mixture of RPG with life sim elements, but it's just weak in comparison to what comes after it. I know that's like a very vanilla take in Persona, and a kind of a controversial vanilla take, if you will. Everything that's kind of on display here in Persona 3 is done better in 4 and 5, in my opinion. It's got the worst cast of characters, it's got the worst dungeon in Tartaros. The gameplay, both in dungeon and the life sim elements, I find is pretty weak. It's got a pretty fun soundtrack, but I think it's probably my least favorite. Which, to be fair, I mean, it's still a fantastic soundtrack. It just, out of the 3, Persona 3, 4, and 5, I think it's my least favorite. But again, it's still a fantastic soundtrack. The social links here are the weakest by far. There's so many that really just don't go anywhere. The plot is also the plot is not something I really play Persona for, but like, it is so, like, it just doesn't go anywhere. It has such a strong start, and then it just like dips. It like doesn't go anywhere. It's crazy. Just how like it falls off so fast after that. It is just so much weaker. Again, I enjoyed the music. The aesthetics here in Reload are fine. I enjoyed the stylization of it, but I think the kind of art direction of it is a lot weaker than 4 and 5. There's nothing that really sticks in my mind the way like the televisions in 4 do. I'm blanking on what it's called. The Shadow World in Persona 4, and Mementos in Persona 5, and the palaces. There's nothing like really to sink your teeth into 3 there, right? It's just kind of stylized, but it's not. It's missing something compared to 4 and 5. It's stylistic, but it doesn't have a depth that 4 and 5 has, is what I think I'm trying to communicate here. Really, the main thing it really stumbles at is it just drags. The game is very long. It's I think it took me give me a sec, I can actually double check this on Steam, but I think it took me about 100 hours. Yeah, 116 hours, and it just really drags. Once you're out of the first couple months, it really feels like you're just doing the same stuff over and over again in a way that it doesn't in 4 and 5, and what little I've played in Metaphor so far. And yeah, I just can't recommend it, honestly. Next game is Thronebreaker, The Witcher Tales. It's another one I just can't recommend it. It's an interesting idea. It just gets stretched too thin. Basically, Thronebreaker is an attempt of taking Gwent from The Witcher 3 and putting it into a narrative format which follows the Queen of Meve during the time of the Witcher Saga book series. I believe, if I'm not misremembering, it's between the ending of the 4th book to about the to the end of the saga. It's not a bad game when it comes to its gameplay. It's just so repetitive. It is a 40-hour game, and it is entirely Gwent. The actual story aspects here are very solid. It has some really fantastic moments, some very fun characters. A lot of the choices are fun. It's a lot of the time it throws a lot of binary choices at you, but they're very tough binaries, which makes it very interesting to choose between them. It's also a treat to experience the Witcher world from the perspective of someone who is not a Witcher. I think that's very cool to see. But yeah, the gameplay just stumbles. It's again, I can double check this on Steam to see how long I played it here. 38 hours, and it's just straight Gwent. It's a really big ask, I think, because it really doesn't have that depth here. You find the deck that works for you and you stick with it, basically. There is one fight, the final battle, where you really have to have a specific deck, to my mind, to win. It throws in like some puzzles, but really I just can't really recommend like 30-40 hours of Gwent. It's a lot. I would only really recommend it if you're really into The Witcher, and I think that's honestly about it. The gameplay is not unenjoyable, but it's just so repetitive. Next game, I barely dipped my toe in it, but barely dipping your toe into Persona 5 Royal is 20 hours of gameplay. Like I said, the itch was not scratched for me with Persona 3, so I wanted to try Persona 5. I scratched that itch a little bit, and I only put like 20 hours into it, like I said, and boy did I have a good time. This game is so phenomenal. I fully recommend it if you haven't played it. Go into it blind and experience it for yourself. It is the best Persona game, hands down. The only thing I would say is it kind of ruins the rest of the series. 4 is a fine game. It is worse in my mind than 5, and there's some real problematic issues regarding Yosuke. Don't get at me at the comments. You know what I'm talking about. 5 is just a really solid experience. I think, to my mind, it has the most consistent cast. I think the highs of Persona 4 in that cast are better than the highs in Persona 5, but there's no one like I really dislike in the Persona 5 cast. I think they're generally pretty solid. I think it's got the best story in all the Persona games. It's got the best social links, to my mind. It is the best realized version of Persona, and there's really nothing else like it. I like to call it this way. If you've never played Persona 5, Persona 5 to me, it is the perfect Peter Parker game. Not Spider-Man, Peter Parker. It is a game where you are a teenager and you're balancing your brand new superpowers with your school life, your social life, your work life, your romantic life, all these various aspects of yourself, and it really feels super busy. It really brings Tokyo alive, and it really dives into Japanese culture in a very interesting way. I'd love to hear a Japanese perspective on it, but it really, as an American playing it, it's very almost informative, I feel like, educational, of like what like a day in the life is of like a Japanese school kid, and you really get to experience that culture. I feel like, particularly between this and 4 and 5, I feel like you really get a depth to the culture of Japan, which I think is just cool to see. And I think, I think that's the thing I really like about it, is it's got that slice of life. It really nails that feeling of like Peter Parker of like I'm this young person still figuring it out. I'm being pulled in a million directions, and yeah, I don't know. It's great. I fully recommend it, fully endorse it. One of the best soundtracks in video games that there is. Amazing stylization. The art design is like perfect. The story, I think the reason it's my favorite out of all the Persona games is that it is very concretely about something. 3 is, it's about death and life, and using your life to the fullest, living your life to the fullest, right? And like that's a fine enough theme. I don't think it really does a lot to it to my mind. And 4 is about truth and what reality is, and like I feel like it's pretty weak, honestly, in terms of its story. But 5 is very concretely about society and social change and authority and questioning authority and the mistakes of people in power and how like a new generation can like really step up and take things into their own hands and fix stuff. And I think it's very impactful in that way, in a way that like 3 and 4 aren't. Again, I won't say it's like the best story in gaming. There's a lot of weak writing in here. I'm looking at you. Before she died, she told me, I think I might die. But it's a very strong story by the standards. I think it works in its own way. Particularly the first dungeon. It is so gripping and impactful. I think it kind of falls off with the later dungeons, not in like a huge way. I think they're fun, but I think the first dungeon is so engaging that it really never captures that again. I think specifically in Royal, the last dungeon is also gripping in that same way, but I think in base Persona, I can see it being like the first dungeon is so strong and it kind of dips. But yeah, I would recommend Royal. The only thing, it is long. I think it engages you that whole length, but it's like 150 hours is I think roughly what it took me. It is a long game. Fully recommended though. Next up is Blue Prince. Blue Prince is a roguelike puzzle game, and it is a lot of fun. I do really recommend this one. It is a very impressive mystery game. It reminds me a lot of the Return of Obra Dinn in a very specific way, in that it feels like you are putting clues together yourself. The way I kind of describe this game is it makes you feel like the Pepe Sylvia scene in Always Sunny, where you have this conspiracy board of the theories and notes and like what's going on, and then when you beat it, it feels like that scene in The Good Place where Michael's where Chidi's like, oh well, we got all 3 of your clues, and Michael's like, oh well, I actually put like 1,000 clues, but I'm glad you got something, right? It has so many mysteries and like so many puzzles. Like I beat this game, but like I need to replay it because I did not figure everything. There's like so much, like I can feel there's like a whole, like I just got to the top of the iceberg beating it, right? Like there's a whole layers that I'm missing of this game. But it is so much fun. The roguelike element, I think can be hit or miss. I think it generally works pretty well, but I think also the fact that it's random can be a little frustrating at times, but I still very thoroughly enjoy it. If you love a good puzzle, I recommend it. Even if you don't, I think it's a very solid game and definitely worthy of your time. 2 Point Museums. This, to my mind, is the best 2 Point game to date. I think one of the big problems I've had with the 2 Point games, as of what I've played so far, is particularly when it comes to the story mode, is like you set up, you would be setting up your hospitals and your colleges, and you set them up, and then you finish the level, and then you never visit it again. This game solves that, in that you like are revisiting them at certain points. You kind of will do a little bit, and then you come back to your first museum, and then you go to your second museum, and you're kind of hopping around a lot, which I think is very cool. The other thing I really love is that it fixes the variety problem. I think one of the big problems I had with 2 Point Campus before it is that 2 Point Campus felt very repetitive. It had like a lot of different classes that you could teach at your college, but they all felt the same. It felt like a new coat of paint rather than like a new style of playing, if that makes sense. 2 Point Museum, the different styles of museum feel very distinct in their way, in the way that you are putting your exhibits together, in the way that you are planning your museum, the layouts of your museum and like what you need. It feels very different as opposed to 2 Point Campus, where in that one you would have to put together your classes, but it would be like the same thing where you'd have to put a classroom and then like a specialty room and then like your dorms and then like your staff rooms. You had the same layout basically for every campus. This one, it's very different because you have your exhibits, and if you're like an aquarium, you have to put up your aquarium rooms, versus if you're like displaying like prehistoric stuff, you have to have your prehistoric exhibits, and then if you have your like hotel rooms, if you're doing your haunting museum, and it just all feels very distinct from one another in a way that it hasn't previously in the 2 Point games, and I think it's a very good step forward in terms of its replayability, even just engaging with you on like its first playthrough. I think it does a lot for it. It is, to my mind, the best version of the 2 Point formula so far, and I thoroughly recommend it. I played Fallout 1 after a long time of wanting to play it. I finally took it off my list, and I'm saying it's a little mixed. I will recommend it if you are a Fallout fan, if you're a CRPG fan, if you're willing to deal with a lot of old school game design here. It is a classic, but it is showing its age. The writing, the world building, the dialogue, the characters are on point. I think the companions are a little weak here. They don't have a lot of identity within the story. It kind of stumbles there, but I think everything else, it fucking nails. The atmosphere is perfect. The gameplay, on the other hand, is a little shallow. Now, there's some really cool ideas here. The dialogue system is super solid, even by modern standards. It's like crazy, right? Like considering like 10 years after this came out, Mass Effect would come out, and it's such a more straightforward cookie cutter dialogue system comparatively. This dialogue system is great. The problem I have with it is the actual action-oriented gameplay, the actual combat. It's very simplistic, very straightforward. It doesn't have a lot of strategy to it. It has a lot of problems, especially with your companions. You can't really properly give them gear, which is very frustrating, and then you don't have control over them, which is another layer of frustration. It's very much a game where like you have the higher level and you win, or you have the lower level and you lose, and there's not really any room for anything else. And while you can kind of engage with the world in a pacifist manner, you don't technically have to kill anyone, aside from a handful of people. You will probably engage with it, with the combat system, I mean, in some way, and because it is lackluster, it can be rather frustrating. I think also outside of dialogue, the skills are kind of not well implemented to my mind. All the other skills are kind of roll of the dice, but you can re-roll anytime you have a skill check. So it makes the fact that you can level up your skills kind of pointless, right? Because if you fail like a, let me think, like a science check, right? You just re-roll the dice, and like, why would you level that up if you can just infinitely re-roll it? At least in most of the skill checks, it feels like you can just have an infinite amount of redos, and that kind of, it kind of takes away from having to level up your skills, right? It really doesn't make sense to spec your character if you can just like a 1 point skill level in science and still have infinite redos, and you'll eventually crack it if you just do it over and over and over again. That said, if you're a Fallout fan, I think the game is definitely worth your time. If you're a CRPG fan, the game is a classic. I don't think it's for everyone. But I think the people who enjoy it will definitely enjoy it. So if you're a Fallout fan, check it out. But just be prepared for a rather dated experience. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I enjoyed my time with Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It is not necessarily my favorite Mario game. It's not even my favorite Mario game I played this year, and we'll get to those. I think its biggest strength and weakness is that it's very childlike. On the one hand, it is a rather easy platformer. It does have the occasional tricky level here and there, but it really pacifies a lot of the aspects of the older Mario games, particularly when it comes to the multiplayer. You can't really like mess around with players, the other players like you used to be able to, right? You can't jump on each other. You can't really pick up each other or throw each other. Or you do all that stuff. There's no time limits in this Mario game, which, you know, Mario games are not particularly challenging per se a lot of the time, and so taking back another layer of difficulty, it is a little bit confusing. Its strengths when it comes to it being childlike is that it is just brimming with creativity, though, right? It has this like childlike wonder to it, right? Every level feels like it has a new gimmick, new idea, and the Wonder Flower mechanic is just really cool because it like twists the level in this new way. Like already after you're into a good chunk of it, it like turns it on its head in some way, and it's just really fun to experience. Like I say, it's not my favorite, but I think it's worth checking out. But if you want a Mario game that really takes its gloves off, Super Mario 3D World. This is a pretty hardcore Mario game. It is a perfect mix of 3D and 2D Mario. It's not quite as flashy as Mario Wonder, but it's still really wonderful. Every level feels very distinct and unique, with new ideas popping up everywhere and being retooled and reused and redone and then mixed together in this wonderful like grab bag of an experience. It's also like tough. Like I did not beat the last level because it was just genuinely too tough. A real challenge, and I really enjoy that from Mario game. I also think that it has a slightly stronger pool of power-ups compared to Mario Wonder. And just generally, I had a better time with it. I think also just like the minor details are here, like there's a timer here, which adds to the difficulty, which can make it a little bit more frantic, which makes it a little bit more fun for me. I also think the multiplayer aspects are just a little more fun. It kind of gets a little messy, but I really like the chaos of this area of multiplayer Mario, of like 3D World and New Super Mario Bros. And New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And I think Wonder kind of loses that. I would recommend this over Wonder. But I think they're both good games, and there's a lot to get out of both of them. Super Mario Bowser's Fury. Yeah, this is the fucking expansion brain meme of Mario. Of the three, this has the worst multiplayer aspects, if you can even call it that. Player 2 in this game takes control of Bowser Jr., and you're kind of just like collecting bits and hitting stuff. You don't have like platformer control in the same way you get in the other ones. It's really badly implemented to my mind. Super Mario Bowser's Fury is a small game, but it is like a wonderfully compact one. It is a open world-esque level design where all the levels are linked together, making it a Mario game with like no downtime, right? Like you don't have to go back to like Peach's Castle to go to the next level. You just go to it physically. That makes it really engaging on a gameplay level. Bowser's Fury is like go from the start, and it feels like you're always moving towards something. I think the weakest aspect to it is having to wait for Bowser to go into his Fury mode sometimes. But like even then, like it's not too bad. I think this game took me like 10 hours to beat, and like I 100%ed it. It's a really quick, short one, but like a really engaging one, a really cool to see one. I know this is the team that did Mario Odyssey and the new Donkey Kong game I'm blanking on. I don't have a Switch 2. I didn't play it. I've heard it's great. But it's really cool to see. It's really short and concise. The platforming is fantastic. The level design is really cool to see. It's just a masterclass in like short, sweet, fantastic, fun gameplay. Fully recommend this one. I'm a little bummed out that I can't recommend this one because I love supporting indie games, but this is a don't recommend, sadly. Is this seat taken? I really wanted to like this game again. It's just good concept, poor execution. The puzzle mechanics here are cool, but like they don't really flesh them out. I feel like it was very easy to beat this game, and I know like not every game needs to be super challenging, but like I feel like they could have done a lot more with this mechanic. If this game gets a sequel, I would love to see more done with it. I would love to see deeper puzzle mechanics done. Another thing that feels very lackluster is that it's only got a story mode. This game is like begging for a infinite mode, and it just doesn't have one, which is baffling. I think also the story mode is just kind of lackluster. The story, which is not something I necessarily play puzzle games for, is not really engaging, I would say. It's a very simplistic story. Yeah, I mean, I'm really sad. I love seeing indie games succeed, and I don't know. I really can't recommend this one. For the price, it's not bad. It's just, there's better options. Just feels very lackluster. I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to this one, but I think they really need to focus more on the puzzle mechanics. They need to make an infinite mode. I think there's a lot that can be done with this concept, but I think it's just as it is lacking, and I can't recommend it. Maybe they've updated it, they put in an infinite mode. I haven't played this game in a while, so maybe it's been updated. But as it is, I really can't recommend it, sadly. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Maybe the quintessential Mario RPG. I know there's some strong fighting words right there, but I really enjoyed Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. This was a replay. I played it a while, like over 10 years ago at this point, I feel like. But Thousand-Year Door, fantastic RPG. I think the strongest aspect to it, to my mind, is its atmosphere and world, which is very surprising from a Mario game of all places, because Mario worlds feel so fantastical most of the time, but like Thousand Year Door is like the only one I can like imagine people living in. There's like a darkness there that's like not normally there, but like it really feels like a world that like people inhabit, that like people like wake up and like go to work in, and then go back and like have like do whatever they do in their off time and hang out in bars, and like it's really shocking, like if you played like any other Mario game. And it really like goes into it, like there's like very like off-color jokes for a Mario game here. Like I said, like the town square has like a gallows in it, which is like crazy. I think like characters talk about it too at some point there. It also like doesn't do like this traditional Mario worlds. Like the first level is a very straight Mario like grasslands world, but then it does like this really like weird like black and white forest world, which is like cool to see. And then like the third world is a WWE parody, and it's like, man, like what are we doing here? The fourth world goes like off rails entirely. It's like so creative. It's so cool to see in so many different regards. I think also the gameplay is like very cool and very customizable in a way that's like really engaging, because you the system, how it works is you have your basic jump attack, your basic hammer attack, which are timed mini games in a turn-based system, which makes it engaging in the turn-based system for that. But then also you have to like if you have like an enemy with a spike on its head, like you can't jump on that because you'll take damage, and if an enemy is flying, you can't hit it with a hammer because it's not on the ground, right? Further, it then has badges, which allows you to equip badges for a amount of badge points, which lets you customize your Mario to fit your specific gameplay style, or to address the threats that are in front of your face, which makes it really, really cool, because it really feels like your Mario in this game is tailored to you. Yeah, it is a great little game. Fully recommend it. It has the remake, which came out on the Switch a couple years back, and that's what I played. Yeah, check it out. Total War Shogun 2. I recommend Total War Shogun 2, and the way I would describe it is the midpoint of classic and modern Total War. It has the flaws of both, but more so it has the strengths of both. It lacks the ambition, I think, of like the earlier Total War games. Like I think it is a little bit resting on its laurels. it's a very simplistic building system, which I don't necessarily love compared to the earlier Total War games. It's a weird mix, right? Because it has both the some of the complexity of the earlier Total War games, but also some of the simplicity of the later Total War games, which means that it can be very easy to pick up and play like the later Total War games, but it has like a depth to it like the earlier Total War games. It's a very strange mix is what I'm trying to get at. To me, like, it works perfectly, right? Because there's a lot of things in the later Total War games that I really don't like. Like, I don't like the fact that, like, you can't select like one unit and tell him to go there unless he's got a general. It's like really unengaging to my part. Also, like, some of the simplistic buildings of later Total War, but it's not like so bad, like everything. It's a weird mix is what I'm trying to get at. That being said, there's a lot of things that are just really fantastic just by themselves. I think the Sengoku Ida is a perfect fit for Total War. I think comparative to like everything else, it's very historically accurate. You know, like, I mean, Rome is vaguely historically, they're all vaguely historically accurate. But like the Sengoku Ida, like, that's just kind of how it was. Like, everyone was fighting everyone. It was all out samurai warfare, which is like really cool to see. I think one of the biggest weaknesses, it's the least diverse Total War game. You are playing a samurai faction and you have like one special unit, and that is the one unit that is different from everyone else's unit, that because they don't get it and you get it, and they all get like one special unit. And that is a little bit of a weakness to some people. To me personally, I think it works pretty well because you roughly know what everyone else has. But it can get a little repetitive. I think also another thing that I really like about it is the aesthetic and the art design. I think this is like the best looking Total War game to my mind, even like by modern standards. This game's like beautiful to look at. The soundtrack is really cool. Also, like, one of the last games to have naval warfare. I think Rome 2 after this was the last one. It's not super great in this one. In the Fall of the Samurai expansion, though, with once you have like gunpowder, it's cool to see. I think a lot of the historical events also that happen during the course of this game are like fantastic. Obviously you have like Christianity coming over and like gunpowder. Europeans are the first making like their contact with Japan. There's a lot of like cool depth here. Like I say, it is a mix of classic and modern Total War, and I think your mileage may vary on whether or not you enjoy that per se, whether you might be more of a modern Total War fan or a classic Total War fan, but I think it's the perfect mix of both to my mind, and I fully recommend it. So this one's a little bit of a weird one. Pokemon Fire Red, I am going to say is a mixed recommend, but Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke Run is a full recommend. This one might be a little bit hypocritical after what I said about Persona 3, but I absolutely adore Fire Red, and this is a little bit of bias since I played it a lot as a kid. Like Persona 3, it is the worst of its series by virtue of being the first. The difference is I have nostalgia for Fire Red and not for Persona 3. That being said, I'll try to defend my point here. It is the least complicated Pokemon game and the least expanded upon. But I think also the base here is so strong. I don't know if I would necessarily feel that if I played the original Red and Blue, but here in Fire Red, it is strong right off the bat. I think there is, the world itself is a little repetitive. I think that some of the Pokemon types are not super well represented, particularly I'm thinking Ghost, Steel. There's like no dark types in this game, which is wild, but there is a dark typing, which is very odd. But that also particularly means like psychic types like dominate because they have like no natural weaknesses. But I think there's a lot going on here that can be appreciated. I think the original 151 Pokemon are maybe the best Pokedex. I'm sure like that's debatable as hell, right? But I think there's so many strong Pokemon here in the original 151 that it's still like really fantastic to see. I think there's a lot of like iconic stuff here going on between like Professor Oak and Gary. All the starters are iconic. The original Fire Red, I think, to my mind, is great. Like I say, I am not fully recommending it for everyone because I think there are better Pokemon games out there. I'd say that if you are have played like Diamond and Pearl or Emerald Sapphire, literally any game after this, this is a little lackluster comparatively because the other games do so much to expand everything else. But I still think there's a strong enough base here that it is worth revisiting. Particularly, I'm going to recommend the Nuzlocke run. I'm going to have a separate video on what a Nuzlocke run is, but essentially it is a run of Pokemon where you have to catch the first Pokemon you encounter on every route, and if one of your Pokemon faints, you cannot use it, and it really adds to the stakes here. I think that really gives it a depth here that it wouldn't otherwise have, and that's kind of why I'm giving it this weird ranking here, because I don't know if I necessarily would enjoy it as much if I didn't do that run. But I think with it was very, very enjoyable, and I thoroughly recommend anyone who's a Pokemon fan to replay Pokemon Fire Red and definitely do a Nuzlocke run of it. Alright, the big boy, my most played game of the year, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what else it would be, Baldur's Gate 3. I loved this game. It was fantastic, and I fully recommend it. It is not an RPG which is concerned with letting you go to every mountain like a Bethesda game, but every mountain you can climb, you can do so however you want, if that makes any sense. The freedom of choice here is what is really startling about Baldur's Gate 3. It plays like a modern BioWare game. Like if you are familiar with Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, it takes that like base of like classic BioWare and like amps it up to 11. There's like a freedom here that like old school BioWare never had, right? You can approach problems in so many ways, you can interact with the world in so many ways and the characters in so many ways. Then it has like everything great about OG BioWare. It has great companions, fantastic quests, a fantastic world that's like feels living and breathing. To like give you an example of just like how free you are to approach it, like take like a locked door in Baldur's Gate 3. In like other games, you would have to lockpick that thing, right? In Baldur's Gate 3, you have your standard option. You can lockpick it. Or you can steal a key and unlock it that way. Or you can smash the door open. Or you can like use a spell to unlock it. Like you have so many options just to like approach a locked door, and it really feels like everything is taken into account. Like I've seen clips online where like solutions to quests like I wouldn't have thought of. Like you can go up to NPCs, and there's a lot of times where like they'll pull out an item and they'll be like, look, this is what I got. But if you like pockpick it off of them before you interact with them and you have that conversation, in the conversation they're like, what happened to my item? You stole it. And like the fact like the developers, it feels like they really took everything to account is like so crazy. I will also throw out there, Act 3 is a little messy. Act 1 and 2, which is like, I want to say like 80 hours of gameplay, is like super solid. I think Act 1 is probably my favorite. And that being said, I think it goes like 1, 3, 2. I don't 2, it's just a little too straightforward to my mind and not necessarily what I enjoy in the other acts. And I think 3 is a little bit too ambitious for its own good, but I really like the ideas behind it. But it starts feeling a little Bethesda-y over there. Like it gets a little glitchy with its characters. Some of like the kinks really need to be ironed out over there. But like overall, Baldur's Gate 3 is like an incredible experience, and I fully recommend it to everyone, really. Alrighty, Undertale. Hey, so you know that game that came out 10 years ago that you haven't played, but everyone says you should play because it's really good? Yeah, it turns out it's really good. If you have not somehow played Undertale, it's really fantastic. This was my first time playing it. You give me shit. I know. It's fantastic, and I should have played it a long time ago. For such a short little game, it really manages to convey so much really quick. The soundtrack. Oh my god. There are so many songs off of this that I knew, and I didn't know it came from Undertale. But like the soundtrack is so crazy, and like looking at it, it seems like Toby Fox, the creator of it, is more a composer than like a game designer. Like it seems from what I've seen, he's kind of weak in the programming aspects. But like his music is like flawless. Like it's so like the way he uses motifs particularly is so cool, because like it's like so like you start it up and it's like a very 8-bitty, but as you go on, like a lot of those motifs get like reworked into like more classical like arrangement. It's like really cool to see, and like it's the music all the way through is like so strong. The game is also like hilarious, like it's really burst out loud funny. It's got this like really online sense of humor, but it's like not cynical at all. It's very sincere. That is, I think, its strongest aspect. The game is super sincere. It's such a weird mix of things to see. I think its sincerity, though, is what really brings everything together, because the story is like really great. I only did a passive this playthrough of this. I couldn't bring myself to do a genocide. I might maybe do that for the channel at some point. I couldn't bring myself to do it by myself. I think its strongest thing, though, is how its story and gameplay tied together, both kind of elevating each other up, right, in a way that neither could by itself. The "but it refused" moment is like the single most hype moment in gaming I might, like, maybe of all time that I've experienced. It is so good, and like it's all like benefited by like this amazing soundtrack, but like also the way, like, even though like I kind of shit talked Toby Fox a little bit earlier there, like saying he's not a good like the game is like really well put together. Again, I'm not a programmer, so I can't really even say anything. The way the gameplay and the story like play with each other, right? Your choices in gameplay have like an impact on the story and the world around you, and it's really cool to see. And the way the story is conveyed through the gameplay a lot of the time, it's really fascinating and really cool to see. And yeah, like it is truly a fantastic game. If you have somehow not checked it out like me, please go ahead, try it. It's fantastic. Manor Lords, I am tentatively putting this in the mixed recommend, only because it's in early access and there's still a lot of things that needs to be done with it. I am very excited for it. So Manor Lords is trying to combine city building elements with Total War elements. Now, as of the moment, it really has more of a conventional city builder vibe. The Total War elements aren't really fully implemented right now, but the gameplay loop here is so solid. It has like that perfect, like, you expand your town a little bit, and so you need more resources, and to get more resources you have to build something else, and because you built something else you need to expand more, and now you need more resources. But now you need different resources to support your economy. It's super addictive. Really excited this one. I don't really want to talk about it too much. I'm just going to keep an eye out on this one. From what I've seen, I really like it. Please don't Sabrina Carpenter me. Because I kind of got addicted to the Manor Lords there, I also played a little bit of Let Them Trade. I'd give this another mixed recommend. It's a cute little trading sim, which is addicting as hell. It's not really much more than that, but it doesn't really need to be much more than that. It's got a really cute art style. It pairs wonderful with its classic management sim layout. It's got that same kind of thing going on where you expand a little bit, and so you need to expand a little bit more, and now you need more resources, and then you need to expand a little bit more, right? It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but like if this game is like, management sims are your thing, this game is like right down your alley. Dispatch. Really recommend this game. I had a great time. I was really surprised how well this game ran on my computer. It was flawless. I think a lot of that has to do with its most of it's pre-rendered from what I can tell. It's a return from a lot of the devs from Telltale Games via ad hoc, and it is fantastic. I think its most glaring weakness is the same thing that's kind of a problem in all these games. It has shallow choices, right? Which are presented as being more important than they really are. The story is kind of expected to play out in a certain way, and so kind of the game can't really deviate from that, so the choices aren't as impactful as they might seem on first glance, which I think really works on the first playthrough, but for like replays, it can be a little disappointing for some people. That being said, I think the writing is so great in this game that I think it kind of doesn't matter that first experience was super solid, and I think even on the second playthrough I would get some enjoyment out of this. The thing that Dispatch really gets right here is that it's got really good gameplay for this type of game. That's something that's really lacking in a lot of these Telltale adventure games. The gameplay can get a little bit boring. The gameplay here is really, really compelling. It is, instead of being you walk around, you look for resources, and you kind of put stuff together and solve puzzles, you are kind of playing a management sim, really, almost like a This Is the Police style of gameplay, where you are sending out your superheroes to respond to problems, and based on their stats they will succeed or fail. Knowing who your heroes are and knowing what the situation is and what they are best at really helps out a lot, and so it helps you engage with your characters and your cast. It's got a very fantastic main cast, fantastic voice acting, great bingeable storytelling. It's very television-like in its acting, in its storytelling, and its directing, in its animation. It's really well put together. Bingeable as all hell, and just overall really fantastic. Pentiment. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. I wrote this down as a recommend, but I might honestly move it down to a mixed. I'm gonna, I am gonna say it's a mixed. I thoroughly enjoyed this game, but I will recognize that this game is not gonna be for everyone. It is probably the most intellectually stimulating game I have played this year. It is one step from being a visual novel. The gameplay is really repetitive. Its story kind of falls apart to my mind in the last act, but I think it's also very engaging. This game is like so... I want to do a Boston accent here. This game's wicked smart. It has like this devotion to like historical accuracy, to like philosophy, to theology, to art. Like it's really staggering to see. It's got this like beautiful art style. To kind of give you an idea of like what I mean by it's like intellectually stimulating, it begins in like a dream where the main character is talking to Socrates, Prester John, Beatrice from Dante's Inferno, and Saint Gremlin, I want to say, this little like historical guy, like a very obscure historical figure. And it's really like cool to see, and like it has like a lot of talk about like church doctrine and like historical events of like the 1400s. Like it's really, 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 really cool to see like the devotion to like medieval history and like all the different like branches of like philosophy and theology. It's really, 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 really cool. I think the main flaw is that, like I said, it can be very repetitive. The gameplay loop basically involves you walking around town and checking to see if there's been any changes in the town. It's a murder mystery, but I wouldn't say it's very Disco Elysium-esque, where you're not necessarily solving the mystery as like you're kind of playing along with the characters, right? If that makes any... It's not a Blueprints or an Obra Dinn. There's a story and you're kind of going through it and your character solving the mystery. You're not necessarily solving it, if that makes any sense. It is, I think, comparative. I don't really want to compare it to Disco Elysium because it is very much its own thing, but it's the closest point of reference also. I think where it stumbles, where Disco Elysium really soars, is that the world here is very constantly changing. Days go by and like there are very subtle changes in the world, and so it kind of asks you to kind of create a loop where you're kind of going around town and asking characters, talking to every single character because they might have different dialogue, and that's not something that really happens in Disco. I think also like some of the navigation is not super great, especially when it comes to the Abbey. It is like it's really cool to see a game which really asks you to engage with it on like an intellectual level, and I think for that I do recommend it. If you love medieval history, if you love philosophy, if you love theology, this game is great. I think also it has like a very great mix of like role play. That's another thing I think does really well, that Disco also does very well, is it gives you a character, and the character is very much an established character, but they also feel like they're your own character by giving you choices in like what your character, blanking on his name, Andreas, right? Yeah, Andreas, and what like your Andreas studies and what he likes and like where he goes to, where he's lived, and so it really feels like your own character. I think from a gameplay perspective though, there's like no skills, so like this dialogue checks here are based on like your prior decisions, which is a cool idea, but a lot of that also kind of it can be gamed a little easily to my mind, because you can very much kind of say like one thing, reload, and then kind of just say the other, right? It's not like the most engaging system, but still I think it's very cool to see. If you love medieval history, check it out. It's definitely a gem. Alrighty. Last game of the year I played was The Witcher. The Witcher is the first game from a great studio, and it shows. I like The Witcher. I don't think it's so tricky. I don't know if I want to give it a mixed or a don't recommend is the thing. There is a lot of ambition here. It is super weighed down by inexperience. The Witcher team, like it is so crazy experience, because there's like so many things here. Like when you learn that this is like the first game that the team put together, there's like so many sections that it's like, oh yeah, that like really shows that this is their first game and they weren't really experienced. But then like in the next 5 minutes after that, it like flips and you're like, holy shit, this was their first game. It is so crazy, because there's so much stuff here that it's like incredibly ambitious. It plays a lot like a BioWare game. In fact, it's the same engine I think that they used for some of their older games. I think they're Neverwinter games, if I'm not mistaken. But like, it's really unlike BioWare, where they were focused on a black and white morality system in a lot of their games. The Witcher will throw binary choices at you, but they are very difficult binary choices where there's not really a good option a lot of the time. It can be very awkward. Like it is what I would say, it is awkwardly backloaded. So the first 2 acts of the game are very weak. You get the tutorial, which is, it's a tutorial, it's fine. It is meant to tell you what the game is, and then you get into Act 1, and Act 1 is weak. It is the weakest part. It gets a little better at the end, but it is the weakest part. And then you get Act 2, and the game gets gradually better from there. And it is like Act 2, Act 1, it starts low, and then Act 2, the quality jumps immediately, and it stays pretty high the rest of the game. There's a lot of jank here. It has a very odd, not necessarily a bad combat system, mind you, but just an odd one. It's more a rhythm minigame more than anything else, and it's pretty easy to kind of bust it open. It's simple but engaging is what I have down here. The graphics are kind of a mess. I don't think they were necessarily good for the time even. But like now, like I don't know if it's like modern consoles or what is it, but like there's a lot of glitches here. Like you walk into like a room and the hair like goes crazy. Its biggest strength is its quests. The quests are super engaging. The story is genuinely great in a lot of parts. I think, like I say, Act 1 is pretty weak. It kind of throws you in there. Like it's very janky in the way like it throws you in there. But like, yeah, once you get past that first act, it improves drastically. It is a game which has like a lot of things to like about it and a lot of things to dislike about it. And I'm kind of talking in circles here because, again, I don't know whether I want to recommend. I'm going to say it's a mixed recommendation. Yeah, I think there is a lot of hurdles to get into this game, but I think it is ultimately pretty rewarding. It is not going to be for everyone, for sure. If you're a Witcher fan, I think you should play it. If you like RPGs, I think you should play it. If you're a BioWare fan, I think you're going to find some enjoyment here. There's a lot of stuff here that's going to put a lot of people off. I think it can be very janky. It's very rough around the edges. I think the gameplay can be a little bit boring sometimes. That being said, there's also a lot to enjoy here. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, I would recommend it. Don't be surprised if you bounce off it, though.